Delphi works with semantic layers. So what's a semantic layer? A semantic layer is a mapping between like real world objects like customers, revenue, orders,
Mhm.
and database structures, which could be like columns and tables and things like that.
Mhm.
And so when Delphi actually interacts with the data, we don't actually touch the database. So you don't need to upload a database or anything.
Mhm.
What you do is you have your semantic layer, which you've deployed on top of your database, which has APIs. So Delphi will connect to those APIs and pull like the catalog, which is from the semantic layer. The catalog tells you what the semantic layer contains. And so all of your metrics and dimensions, and then Delphi will generate a semantic layer request to understand to actually query the data, right? That's how it works. So we don't actually ever really connect to data warehouses directly. We connect to semantic layers.
Okay. So now that you talk about semantic layer, I need to go back to it because I don't know much about it. A lot of people I'm sure watching don't know. So uh, let's say semantic layer 101 for beginners. So what
Yeah.
it is.
So a semantic layer kind of describes the world, right? So inside the business, like that e-commerce business, it's telling you about things like this is a customer, and a customer is defined, and it might have a description, it might have a label, but it will also say, oh, how do we pull the data for this customer? Well, that one customer is equivalent to one customer ID in this table, right? That's the kind of way it would define it.
Mm.
And then you can say, well, this customer has different attributes, like age or gender or something like that. And it will tell you how to pull those attributes from the data source as well. And then it might also say, oh, well, this customer has, uh, another characteristic, like, for example, let's say like a driving, like a car license plate, for example. And that's just one thing that the customer has, but the license plate is also then linked to a lot more data than just the license plate. It's everything about the car and the insurance and things like that. And so the semantic layer also defines how to join those two pieces of information together. So all the information about the car joined to the customer who owns the car, right? And that's kind of like what the power of a semantic layer can do is that all of that difficult technical work that you'd have to do, like if I was writing SQL to join the information together and sum it and calculate and select it, that's all abstracted away by the semantic layer. You ask the semantic layer for what you want in real world terms, not database and table
Mm.
and column names. You get you get what you need. So previously these requests were like API requests, which are relatively simple, but aren't natural for a human to generate. And essentially what Delphi does is it translates that human request into a valid semantic layer request to answer the question. And yeah, I guess semantic layers are great. I'm a really big fan of them. For
Okay.
me, I don't understand how any organization working with data can really have like a single source of truth without having a semantic layer, because otherwise everyone can define things how they want.
Yes.
If finance want to define revenue one way, that's fine.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if marketing want to define revenue one way, they can also do it because there is no single place to define it. Then that's also the joy of the semantic layer is that
Mhm.
it's a single audited version controlled place to define these things that are important to your business. And yeah, that's another reason. So there's many semantic layers out there today.
Mhm.
Some of the most famous ones are part of business intelligence tools. So for example, Looker's one is probably the most famous out there. It has something called LookerML, which
Mhm.
is its semantic layer. Then you've also got Metabase, which is an open source tool, which has a semantic layer, and Lightdash, which is similar to Looker, but open source as well. And then you've got these what are called headless semantic layers. So they're not attached to a BI tool, they're just on their own standalone products. So DBT's semantic layer is like this. Cubes is also like this, at scales is also like this. And so all six of those are partners of ours, and we integrate with their semantic layers today.
Wow. Actually, this is really good. So instead of having, like you said, anyone defining what is a customer, what is revenue, or instead of like doing all this SQL, you're always doing this join, with this table. So you build the semantic layer on top of your database, then it make life easier for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And what I would say is that there is always a semantic layer, right? And so in the past, I've been the semantic layer because I
Yes,
remembered how to write the joins. I remembered which columns to sum and to use. And
yes.
now, but when you make it explicit and you put it in technology, then it's there for everyone to use and it's consistent for everyone to use.
Wow. Are these tools affordable or they're kind of expensive, like these semantic layer services?
So it depends. So if you were to buy something like Looker, which
Mhm.
has it as part of the BI tool, you could consider it that it was quite expensive. Like it's not uncommon for a typical organization to spend like over $100,000 on Looker. That's not uncommon.
Mhm.
But there are many other ways now. So Cube, as I said, is open source. So you could host Cube on your own infrastructure and it would work. And so that costs as much as it takes to do the engineering to look after it. They also have a cloud product which is much more affordable than using Looker most in pretty much every scenario. And then you could then use that with whatever you wanted as a BI tool or to use in your own applications as well.
Wow. Actually, this is good. I just, yeah, I'm surprised. Like a lot of people not are not using this like semantic layer. It seems very, especially for a data analyst. I'm certified Google data analyst. I know how hard it is to, if you have a lot of data, right? Especially for big organization, multinationals, this makes sense, right?
Yeah,
It makes.
I definitely agree. And like at scale, who's one of our really good partners as well, they actually serve some of these gigantic organizations who identify they have this problem and this need, and they use at scale as their semantic layer. So they've got like Fidelity, Toyota, Netflix as
Mhm.
some of their customers. So these are giant, 100,000 person organizations using them.